Hello everyone, my name is Jose Abalos. I'm an associate level designer community at Avalanche Software, and welcome to the third and final part of my Remote Bowling HD tutorial. In the first part, we discovered how to move the ball around the field with using a remote controller, target cameras to focus on the ball, and weather vanes that push the ball around. On the second part, we knew how to make checkpoints using trigger areas and logic gates. And now, finally, we're going to be determining how to end the game. So once we reach to a certain part, you end up the level and you celebrate and yada yada yada. So for that, we're going to be using a challenge maker and we're going to be using a timer. So let's get started. We open up the ribbon and we go to creativities. First, we're going to put the timer around here, and now we are also going to be using a challenge maker, which is going to be right here. So this is the challenge maker. This is where the player usually starts the challenge. And you can see that red thing over there, right here in the corner where I'm aiming with the wand. That's the direction the player is going to be facing once you start the challenge. So it's going to be something like I'm going to be looking at around here. So we're going to rotate it a little bit. So it's facing the remote controller. Something like that. And okay, let's start configuring this. First, let's configure the timer. So we select it with wand and we go to its properties. So target time, we're not going to be using it, so we can just skip this. Visible display on, and countdown from target time. This is going to determine whether I'm going to be counting from 5 minutes to 0 seconds or from 0 seconds and upwards. For our demonstration purposes, for what we want to do, we're going to put it off. So it's going to count up. That's what off means in the countdown from target time. So that's all we need to do. And now we can select the challenge maker and we can see that we have new time results connection and new score results connection. This is basically whether to determine the winners using a scoreboard by getting points, like if you were using a collectathon or killing enemies or whatever, or time results, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. So we select new time results connection and we're going to be connecting it to the timer. And we can see that it says link time for results. That's all it is. So now once we start the challenge, now the challenge is associated to the timer. Now let's see some other properties that this one has. The properties are auto start on toy box game load. So if you load up from the main menu, do you start automatically at the challenge maker? This is just a matter of personal preference. For Remote Bowling HD, I put on, but that's okay. Now, results score label. How do you want to determine the winners? Do you want to determine them by points, or do you want to determine them by time, or defeats, or gates, or whatever? In this case, we're going to be using time as a way of using the timer. Results rank order, high to low. If it is by time, you can put it high to low or low to high. Since this is a game where you want to do it as fast as possible, you're going to select it low to high, because the fastest you get, the lower the time it is. And location. And location basically is where do you want to spawn the player or to place them after you finish up the game and you close up the results, etc. For now, you can select current location, you can use a random locator, or you can even say the challenge maker itself. For now, we're just going to put current location. Quit toy box game when ended. Basically, do you want the level to throw you back to the main menu after you finish up the challenge, yes or no? By default, it's off. And this is the game start countdown. It is, do you want it to be like 3, 2, 1, go? Title, it's going to be the name of the challenge. And since I'm not connected to a Disney ID, it tells me, hey, connect to a Disney ID to use this feature. And description, what is the challenge about? So, how are we going to be using the timer around? The idea is that once you start the game, we show the timer. And once we end up the challenge, we pause the timer so we can show it to the results, and then afterwards it resets again in case that the player wants to start the the challenge from scratch and not, uh, and not from whatever time you had when you finished. So the new logic connection is once the game starts, we're gonna start the timer. So we're gonna say start. You can also use pause in case to stop the time, reset, start from scratch, remove all, basically just erase the timer, and show timer display. This is only if you select the timer that you say, hey, don't have a visible display in the properties of the timer. Since it is on by default, we don't need it. So let's say start. Now we also need to pause the timer once we complete the game. And you can see that it says game ended, game completed, and game failed. Game ended is when you pause the menu and you say, hey, abort the challenge, and you actually abort it. When that happens, it calls game ended. Game completed is once you get to the destination or whatever it is, whatever condition it is to finish the game. And game failed is when you failed the challenge. For example, you had 2 minutes to kill a certain number of enemies and you didn't do that. And finally, results close is going to be after you finish up the game. It's going to show you a scoreboard with all the positions of the match, and if you close that window, it calls results close. For now, we're going to need game completed. So when we complete the game, we'll need to pause the timer. In case that we end up the game by aborting it, game ended. We reset the timer. And finally, also, once we have the results closed, we're also going to reset the timer. Okay, so now we need to determine some way of finishing up the game, and for that we're going to be using this exact same trigger area that in the first part we used it to eliminate the ball. So now we erase all the logic connections, something which I already did, and now we put new logic connection when a physics ball enters, and now we're going to be we're aiming to all of the falling object generators, and we say remove all. And now we do the same for the other two falling object generators. So 1, 2. Okay, remove all, and finally the third one. So remove all. Alright, so we have that. Now what we need to do is deactivate all the different target cameras so the camera is focused again on the player. So, new logic connection, entered physics ball. We select each target camera and we say, hey, deactivate. Physics ball second target camera, which is this one, if I can just name it. And now enter physics ball and deactivate the other camera. We can concentrate all of this functionality in just one logic gate, but I'm just not doing it right now for time's sake and because we're only using one trigger area. But if you have more ways of finishing up the level, it's better. So we eliminate the balls. We are deactivating the cameras. Now what we need to do is complete the game. No, first we need to get out of the remote controllers so we can see the player. So enter physics ball and we aim to the remote controller. And we say, okay, for all players, force exit. And now finally we complete the game. So enter physics ball and we go to the challenge maker and we complete the game. Now everything should be set up and ready to go. So let's go over here and let's start the challenge. 3, 2, 1, go! As you can see, once the game started, you can see the timer running. So let's try. Let's get in here. And we have confetti celebrations.
New high score.
And we see the results. You can see it took me like around 9 seconds. And the timer stopped. And if we do it again, you can see that the timer will start again from 0 seconds instead of 8 or 9. 3, 2, 1, 0 seconds. And now if I abort the challenge, the timer stops. And that's really all there is to know about how to make it a challenge. And now what happens if you want to save this as a toy box game instead of just a regular toy box level? For that, we're going to need another toy called the Toy Box Game Maker. Yeah, Toy Box Game Maker. We just put one around here, the level. And let's see some of the properties that you want the players to do or not. So, properties, if you want the player to be able to use the editor, magic wand, change the logic in the level, or customize any terrain or something that you have. You want to move stuff or delete. If you want to cancel custom cameras, this is going to be kind of useful because otherwise the player can just open up the ribbon button and they would get out of the camera. So we're going to put that one on. Are we allowing the players to use power discs or just use filters and whatever enemy difficulty they have? And now that we have all that, we can just pause the game, go to save, and you can see that at the top it says Toy Box Saves. In this case, if I press the right button, it can say Toy Box Game. And now we can just give whatever description you want and then create a new save. And that's it. And now we can just load this up and open it up as a Toy Box game. Now, this marks the end of the tutorial on how I did Remote Bowling HD. I hope that this tutorial has been useful to all of you, and if you have any questions, please let me know either in the comments or in the forums. I am always listening, and well, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you make even more awesome levels than what I did.